Right before she died of a drug overdose, I had no idea she was taking drugs.
It gets you addicted. I mean, I started out like any drug, just doing it once a week. Then it became twice a week. Then it became almost every night, smoking a little bit. Then it became waking up with it, doing it all day long.
I didn't get to see my daughter, but her dad did.
He was a heroin addict. He, had struggled with heroin for a long time, but he had been clean for a year.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, why? Why did you drive?
I looked to the left and I saw like this white truck, and I couldn't say nothing. I said, I go, oh Jesus, like that, and it hit us.
You will be convicted of a felony if you're caught selling this stuff.
And what you don't really realize that you're putting your life in danger and everybody else around you in danger, and it's just not worth it.
It was 8 minutes from the time the officer left, and that my daughter was killed.
Broke my back at T12, severed my spinal cord, had a punctured lung, a torn diaphragm, and several broken ribs, and that's what left me paralyzed at the waist, and you got a speeding ticket. That's it.
Hello, folks. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. I see we have quite a few people here coming right out of the chute. We don't usually do premieres this early in the day, and maybe that's something we should be doing more of. I see Christine is here, and she is driving home from the mechanic, so when she gets home, she might be able to participate. Okay. Well, that's something. Kimberly says, Glenn, I feel like that mom as a mother, which was kid. Okay. So I see we have over 30 people who have joined us here. We need more likes. We have one thumbs up. 38 people in the room, one thumbs up. Please. So this Cannabis Induced Psychosis series is really a kind of a new topic for us here at Texas Pictures. And we are, of course, learning as we go, which is typically how it works for any journalist, anyone who's in a role of journalism. You learn as you go. And so we've learned a lot, and find that there's a lot of very strong opinions relating to this topic. Opinions that aren't consistent with similar topics, like the same people who will leap to the defense of cannabis don't really, there's not an equivalent of that type person who leaps to the defense of alcohol. There's many cannabis defenders who will leap to the defense of cannabis by diverting attention to alcohol, saying, oh yeah, well, what about alcohol? Alcohol is way worse. Doesn't really matter. I was that kid, now a single mother. It's funny how often life doesn't really work out the way, not just the way you dreamed, but it doesn't work out in a way that you expected at all. A lot of times, it seems like to me. So here we are. We have a nice size crowd in the room for starting out. So let me begin just by putting the question out there. If anyone has any questions for us, you know, when we announce these stories, these cannabis induced psychosis stories specifically, when we announce them on our Facebook page, on the Texas Pictures Facebook page, a lot of people really lose their minds. They just go off. They say it's reefer madness. They say it's propaganda. And what's comical to me about that is that they're saying those things about a story that hasn't even been published yet, that no one has seen. This story, we received a ton of comments on Facebook, on the Texas Pictures Facebook page. When we promoted this story, we received a ton of comments from people who were saying, it's all lies. It is propaganda. It is reefer madness. Actually, they misspelled the word reefer. It said refit madness. But cannabis defenders tend to misspell words very often. So we just kind of let that go. Well, sort of, because it's too funny to me to not mention it. But that's just me. And so, and all of these people, I don't know how many comments, I would guess maybe 40 people or so made comments about the content of the story that hasn't been public yet, that no one has seen except me and Christine, the storyteller. No one else. No one else. Yet, for some reason, cannabis defenders were positive about what was in it. And that's hilarious to me. That says so much about cannabis defenders' willingness to listen to anything that doesn't suit what they want to believe. Kimberly says the disease is a horrible addiction. It certainly is. And Kimberly also says she's glad that we're doing the cannabis stories. Yeah, the cannabis stories, they're interesting for sure. We're going to be doing some in Tennessee, Kimberly. We're going to be doing some in Tennessee, maybe Gatlinburg, maybe Memphis. I'm not sure. It's a lot of what we do seems to be a kind of moving target, so I can't really nail down where we're going to be just yet. But we're going to be in Tennessee. I can be that specific. We're going to be in Tennessee. We're going to be in South Carolina, and we're going to be in North Carolina, all in October. Wow. Okay. So, Casey. So, Casey, I feel like you're new. Have we seen you in here before? It could be that I just don't remember your name because, my brain is so full that, some information just gets pushed out because I know so much. I like to think that's what it is anyway. Could be something completely different. Alejandra, who's one of our storytellers, who shared her story about cannabis-induced psychosis and her son during the same event that Christine was at. She says there needs to be more conversation about this cannabis problem. Not enough information or research is being done to help people and prevent stories like mine from happening. Yes, for sure. There is not enough research. And that is one of those things. That is one of those things that I believe our series can help motivate more research. We get, oftentimes we wind up with some contradictory kind of information. We'll hear one thing from a physician that we interview, and then we'll hear something different from a psychiatrist that we interview. And so it's kind of strange. Casey, you're in Texas. Are you Casey Gibson? Maybe. Just thought I'd throw that out. Maybe. In somewhere in Bell County. That'd be a kick. So Alejandro says, Glenn, I'd like to see you interviewing research university staff that could be studying this issue. We're totally game for that. The challenge that we face more than anything is just geography and time. There is research happening. There's research happening on at St. Jude Children's Hospital that's finding where cannabis in some form can help treatment with childhood cancers. And that's one of the things that we're exploring right now, and don't know where that's going to lead us just yet. But we're working on that. We're working on we've talked to several physicians, and we're going to interview more physicians. When it starts, as you go up the chain and you start getting involved with research facilities and hospitals as a full being, they're less likely to want to commit, especially with just, we're just a YouTube channel. So we are trying really hard. There is so much out there. There are so many important stories out there. And we want to bring the darkness into the light. That's a phrase a friend of mine uses a lot. She's a very, very cool person. Bring the darkness into the light. And so that's what's most important to us. We're not pro or anti weed specifically. We are pro awareness. People understand that there are risks. There are people out there who says, no, there's no risk, that it is natural, it's completely natural and safe. And that is so stupid. That is just flat out brain dead stupid. It is retarded. There's no excuse. That is so ignorant. How can anyone be that blind in a world that is full of deception and fraud, where all the products that can have fraud in them need extensive regulation to protect consumers from fraud, except this one product? Just this one product doesn't need that kind of protection for some reason. That is so stupid. How can it not? Regardless of how natural you think it is, it's coming from a company. A lot of the companies that are making the product now, they're based in China. And there's hours of discussion on China's role in exploiting addictive behavior. But regardless of where the company is, why would the companies be any different from any other company in the United States, or in the world for that matter, that is trying to maximize profit and minimize production costs? So stupid. All right, so I'm behind when I went off on my little diatribe there. So Kimberly did news coverage this Monday on fentanyl awareness. And Kimberly, I think I would love to share that with the group. Let me see if I can find. If I can find the link, I will put it in the. Oh, okay. Maybe I got it here. Copy link address. Okay, here's the link that Kimberly's talking about, the news report that she was featured in about fentanyl. I'm pretty sure that's it. Skykeitha Allen. Thank you for joining us. I use cannabis. Skykeitha Allen. I'm not guessing the pronouns on that one. So I used cannabis for 26 years, and it was all good until it wasn't. I'm now in recovery, and I've been for 6 years. People still don't believe that I was addicted to cannabis. I believe you. I think there's a significant number of people in this room, in this event, they believe you too. And so that's a breakthrough right there. The fact that you're talking about it, little by little, more and more people will believe. And I'm convinced that the best way to bring people to the light is by letting everyone talk. I think there's it gets me in trouble to say this, but I don't care. Cannabis defenders oftentimes wind up making the case against cannabis by trying to defend it foolishly. When I say foolishly, I mean can't handle the basics like spelling or punctuation. There was a comment a few days ago from someone that was long enough to probably fill a typewritten page. Let's say half a page. Probably more than half a page. For sure more than half a page. Maybe not a whole page, but it was long. Nowhere in the whole thing was even one period, or a comma, or question mark. Nothing. And there's quite a few comments that are like that come from cannabis defenders. And there's quite a few comments that come from cannabis defenders that have misspelled words. Simple words, words that are obviously misspelled. That I devote a couple of hours every morning and then other time throughout the day going through comments from people on all of our stories. And the amount of misspelled words and comments on the cannabis stories from people who are defending cannabis is substantially higher than the amount of misspelled words we see in any other series. Profoundly so. Like, I have not done specific research, but my estimate would be 5 times higher, between 4 times higher and 5 times higher. It is substantial. It is just in the course of my experience of reviewing all of those comments, I have reached the point now where when I start going through them and I see it's a comment defending cannabis, I have this habit of looking for the misspelled word. It's crazy. Daniel Clark says, thank you for making these videos. I mean, for all of these topics that we make stories about, I feel extremely fortunate, extremely blessed to get to do this kind of work, to get to address these kinds of topics that brings the darkness to the light, that increases awareness about cannabis or about fentanyl or about addiction recovery or human trafficking or domestic violence or, oh gosh, whatever I'm forgetting. But I feel so extremely blessed to have people come to us and want to share their story. People in the fentanyl family, people in the cannabis, that people like Aubrey Adams, who is right here. She is pleasantly pushy. Very, very cool that Aubrey is here. So I'm sure I missed stuff while I rambled. Casey says it's all about the taxes the government can collect by making it legal. I'm going back a little bit. Cannabis, Every Brain Matters, which is Aubrey. Probably Aubrey. I mean, it's not just anyway. Cannabis Induced Psychosis is a significant factor in the crazy violence we're experiencing. Okay, yeah, there's a whole big giant can of worms. So I've been told by 2 physicians now that there was a cannabis issue with the school shooter in Uvalde, Texas. But finding something in the public realm that supports that has been a challenge. But I've heard it from 2 physicians. There's another one. I don't know. Christine says, I suggest that people can read the book called Pot Safari. Pot Safari. You mean this book? Pot Safari. This book was sent to me by Dr. Ken Finn. Very good guy, and holy cow, I'm behind on sorting something out where we have Ken on live where we can have an open discussion about some of the information in this book and other related topics. But it's funny that someone would bring up Pot Safari, and lo and behold, I have it sitting right here on my desk. I also have candy on my desk. But yeah, anyway, so let me see. I got to tell the editor something. So, anyway, read Pot Safari Casey, absolutely a factor, says Rude Elgin. Rude Elgin. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that maybe Rude as a screen name may not be the best way to make use of your screen name. So, Kimberly, come on. I have totally lost my place again, Casey. Also, the money they claim they will save on enforcement, judicial, and prison system, which is mostly grossly overstated. Yeah, it is grossly overstated because there isn't really any enforcement of cannabis. It is legal by default, even if it isn't officially illegal in major counties all over Texas and in other parts of the country. District attorneys are saying, nope, we're just not doing the cannabis stuff. We're not enforcing marijuana laws anymore. That seems kind of crazy too, because it shouldn't be possible for a district attorney to just arbitrarily decide which laws they're going to enforce. It's not their role. Anyway, so cool. Sorry, just trying to make things happen. Hey, Mr. Glenn, Brenly says, have a good day. Is it Brenly? Does that mean that you're leaving? Kimberly, Casey says, Kimberly, I want to teach my son a trade. Having a trade is such a big deal. It's so empowering to have something that you can count on to feed you and to feed the people that are your responsibility. And Aubrey says, yes, pleasantly pushy. And keep up the good and necessary work, Lynn. Thank you, Aubrey. I do remember your name, Aubrey. So yes, Aubrey, we do have a couple of stories that were in the early stages of development on that take a very different approach to cannabis, that involves treatments that some say have cured childhood cancers. And so it's very much in the early developmental stages, but they seem like the kind of story that would be an important contrast to the psychosis stories in a way that makes both topics more credible. But we'll see. So Kimberly says, hey, Edgar. Edgar, are you new? Edgar Garcia, don't start making videos about Tylenol now. Why would we? I think everybody is pretty aware of what kind of potential dangers there are with Tylenol. I know there is dangers with Tylenol with regard to alcohol. Or is that Advil? Maybe, I don't know. So, are you, Edgar? Are you saying what? Well, what are you saying? Commit, or are you making a joke like that's just a like the topic that we're exploring here is trivial and exaggerated, some sort of reefer madness thing? Is that is that what you're saying? Because that's cool if that's what you're saying. It would be great to talk about it because everybody in the room should hear those kinds of arguments and understand the different perspectives that are out there. So is that what you're saying? Just 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 trying to be clear because there that could go a couple of different directions, and we have tried. We have really encouraged people who are cannabis defenders to join us in these events and talk with us and share their perspectives. And they don't typically do it. I don't know why. So Kimberly says, "Hey, Edgar." Alejandra says, "Thank you, Aubrey, for all you do. Can you float the gears?" Okay. Y'all. Okay. A CDL can teach him anything. Class A CDL. Casey says a Class A CDL, I can teach him anything. All right. Casey says auto body, heavy equipment maintenance, and operator. And Garza. Wow. Okay. I've missed a lot here. Casey, that would be a blessing if you do teach your son a trade. Casey says, I want to teach him. Kimberly says, Casey, what do you want to teach him? And Gonza says, I am crying right now because my soul has been touched by the hard work you do in bringing these stories to us. I care about us. You care about us. You care about humans. Oh, thank you, Anne. I kind of feel like, yeah, of course I care. How do you not? Uh, Thank you. CDL. Rudd Elgin or Rude Elgin, however. Kimberly, kids are setting up their own dope delivery systems over WhatsApp and Cash App and other platforms. Yeah, we hear about that sometimes for sure. Ask him if he would like to go to school for whatever. Can you float the gears? Okay, Edgar, I don't float the gears. I don't know that one. I don't. Does that have something that I? I'm a part owner in a transmission shop, and I don't know what that means. So, root. Okay. All right. Root, this is really sad here in Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County, and don't know in other states. So Root says it's pronounced root. Dun, 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 dun. Root. Reformed pot growers make great gardeners, greenhouse techs, horticulturists. culturalists. You know, I would think it's not really about being a reformed pot grower. It's a plant, so kind of the same. Alejandro says, Glenn, have you lost someone to addiction? What did inspire you to work on this field? Well, I did it for chicks. No. It's really I get asked this question in live events fairly frequently, and it's sort of hard to address. But it's kind of always been a dream. When I was in college, I was a journalism major. I studied in college. I studied photography, journalism, filmmaking, and psychiatry or psychology. And so the psychology part probably really was just for chicks, but that's another story. So I feel like you should. I haven't lost anyone to addiction. I don't have substance use disorder or anything like that. I care about people like most people do if you give them a chance to. And so I think there was an interview that there was a story. There was a story about a documentary we made back 10, 11 years ago, and the reporter asked me that same kind of question: "Why did you do this?" And what I said to him is, if is I believe that if you have the ability and the resources to do something that contributes, it's sort of a sin not to. So I tell you about me saying that way back when because I felt like it really sums it up well. But if any of you happen to see that news story, hear me repeat it, I want you to know I'm not. I'm being straight about where it came from and how long ago I said that. So true, growing pot is gardening, but it's better to focus on kale. Kale. Okay. So kids don't need to be exposed to cannabis or THC. For sure, it is particularly dangerous for kids, for developing minds. That is a well-established, well-known fact. Well, there is. I can share with you guys links that address that. I think. I believe. Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe I don't. The Mayo Clinic says marijuana use among adolescents and young adults can affect normal brain development, leading to problems in learning, memory, coordination, reaction time, and judgment. Excessive and frequent use of marijuana is associated with a range of emotional problems, according to the Mayo Clinic. The CDC, I'll try that again. The CDC says marijuana has been linked to a range of mental health problems, such as depression and social anxiety. People who use marijuana are more likely to develop temporary psychosis and long-lasting mental disorders, including schizophrenia. The association between marijuana and schizophrenia is stronger in people who start using marijuana at an earlier age and use marijuana more frequently. That's according to the CDC. Now, I know there's some people out there who hear CDC and decide, no, not going to believe the CDC because whatever reason. Do your own research. We all have the internet. At least all of us do because we're here. Do your own research. It's not rocket science. It's not even cannabis science. It's just doing Google searches or asking AI or doing something along those lines. And you'll get the same consistent message that's coming from the CDC and the Mayo Clinic and all these others. Thank you, Root. Everyone click the like button. You know, that's the thumbs up thing. Right now we have 26 people, 27 people in the room in the live event, and we only have 13 thumbs up. So I realize that for those of you that are watching this on a smart TV, that it might be challenging to participate in this chat portion. But the workaround for that is to watch on your phone also. And then you can text, type, communicate using your phone while you still have the program on the big TV. So I've been told there's people out there who do that. Glenn, I've been doing research on cannabis and fentanyl also. Yes, Kimberly, there's a lot of information out there. What I see happen a lot, particularly with people who research cannabis from a defensive perspective, is that they reject a lot of what they find. They just go straight into denial. Doesn't seem particularly bright to me. But that's a thing. All right, so what have I missed? We have quite a few people in the room, somewhere between 25 and 29. It looks like we got one more thumbs up. We're up to 17 now. We have had almost 200 people through the room. They'll come in for a while, watch for a while, decide, holy cow, this Glenn guy is boring, and move on. No, Kimberly, I'm sure you don't reject. You're a thinker. You're not reading to defend a perspective that validates cannabis. There's not really a pro-fentanyl argument out there, at least not a pro-illicit fentanyl argument out there. I know that fentanyl does have great value for people who need serious pain management help, who are maybe dealing with cancer or some other kind of hospice kind of circumstance. So there's that. I have a friend who uses fentanyl patches, and she's struggling. it makes sense for her to be using. I am so grateful for all you folks being here. I always want to remind you folks, speak up. If you've got questions about Texas Pictures or about any of the series that are on our channel. And when I say any of the series, I'm just going to name them off. There is the fentanyl poisoning series, the addiction to recovery series, trafficking in America. There's the American Peace Officer, and there's impaired driving awareness programs as well. There is also Cannabis Induced Psychosis, domestic violence, and other stuff. When I say other stuff, what I really mean is I should have wrapped it up with the last one. And so, but there is other stuff. There's other stuff. And there's some occasional other content that we put on our channel as it comes along that doesn't really fit into any of those categories. Kimberly says, I understand that like serious pain, but just to consume cannabis and fentanyl, oh my gosh, yeah, that's terrible. Root says the psychosis playlist is scary. Yeah. Yeah, the psychosis playlist is very scary. And I think part of what makes it so scary is that there's such diversity in the perspective of how dangerous or not dangerous cannabis is. There's a lot of people out there who will say, well, it's natural. It's God's gift. It is safe because it's natural. And now there's arguments out there where people say it's safe because it's legal. A lot of those same people, criticize alcohol, but it's legal. So it's not consistent. So Kimberly says cannabis is really important to me, meaning important to you to learn about. Kimberly, what? You're just trying to stump me now? Ask me what does THC stand for? I don't know. I don't know what CBD stands for either. But I bet I can just somewhat effortlessly go to the internet and ask. THC stands for tetrahydrocannabinol. Tetrahydrocannabinol. And there are important differences, including how. So both products contain THC and CBD, which are cannabinoids. THC stands for tetrahydrocannabinol, but commonly refers to delta 9 tetrahydrocarbon. Yeah. So, well, there you go. Hello, Brenda. Glad you're here. We're going to be wrapping it up soon, but glad you're here. I have yet to watch a premiere. Hope everyone is wonderful on this Wednesday afternoon. 384 day off of fentanyl. That's awesome. That makes me so happy. And Kimberly is here. Brenda is here. Awesome. So I need to see. no. Okay. Casey, is your son interested in fixing vehicles? Tammy. Tammy, is the psychosis caused by the cannabis being laced with another drug like fentanyl or just by long term use? That from the information that we have seen, neither. That we hear often from cannabis defenders the comments like, yeah, that wasn't just cannabis, that was something else. That was laced with something or whatever. But oftentimes this is talking about cases that involved a comprehensive death investigation and a trial. And the investigation found nothing else. So there's that. So in the long-term use thing, can be a contributing factor, but it doesn't have to be. We have a couple of stories where it just struck out of the blue and with people who don't have with people who say they don't have a long-term history of cannabis use. Two of them, Bren Spetcher is one of them, and that's one of the stories in the series. Another one is Javante Hill, which is a story in the series. When I was a teen, we would drink a few beers after work and tinker on our hot rods. This shit they sell at the gas station to our kids is life-altering poison. Yeah, I think probably it is. There's another thing that strikes me about how it was when I was in high school, college. It was a social thing. When you were doing whatever you were doing, you were probably with your friends and you were engaging with your friends and not just focused solely on impairing your perception of reality. You're being with friends. Kim, thanks for always catching my jokes. Yeah. Christine says the psychosis can actually happen off the first hit of a Delta 8 vape pen or even just 3 gummies. My son used no drug except cannabis. Now, we do hear from a lot of commenters when a parent says that, the commenter will say, yeah, that's what they think, but you can't really know. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that's what commenters often say. I can't really know. Casey says, I'm just a worker. Right's right and wrong is wrong. Yep. But y'all get what I'm saying about that, right? Yeah, back in the old days, it was a social thing. It was as much about spending time with people that mattered to you, your friends, as it was becoming impaired. And so that's a difference. That's a substantial difference, I think. Should be for sure. All right, 19 likes, 28 people in the room. Come on, just hit that thumbs up thing. Anyway, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Alejandro says, my son's toxicology report only showed THC. I wasn't satisfied with the result and sent the samples to a private lab, and they didn't find anything except for THC. So what we hear from THC defenders about that is that there's a lot of stuff out there that labs don't test for. Which is a pretty weak argument. It's vague and factless. It's just saying it. Kimberly says, I'm a parent and it scares me if I would find my son overdosed on medication. Yeah, that's got to be one of the big terrifying things. For sure. So we've been here a little bit over an hour, and it's going to be about time to wrap things up today. Zell, how old is your son? Alejandra, you want to answer that? Brenda says, Casey, I told you what happened to me when I decided to use gas station dope to get off illicit fentanyl. It almost put me in the ER. So 7-OH and kratom can be gathered up and used in the next war. Huh. Gathered up and used in the next war. So Kimberly, Alejandra's story about her son is on our channel. It was published. I'm checking how long ago it was published. Diego Zell, and I will share a link to it. And here is Diego's story. There's the link right there. That is Diego Zell's story. It's one of the longest stories on our channel. You had a lot to say, Alejandra. And the story is drawing an amazing amount of attention. Right now, I just check, there's over 156,000 views. Since it was published on September 3rd. So that's really a lot. Alejandra, you did a great job, and I have learned that there is no predicting which stories are going to do really well. There's just I don't understand, but I'm very happy that Diego's story is reaching so many people, that he's saving lives. So is there any other questions? Anyone in the room have any other questions that has to do with Texas Pictures or storytelling summits or any of that before we wrap this one up? I always like to check just one more time and, of course, give Brenda a chance to say her thing. Alejandro says, my son's story is very similar to Bryn's, same horrific symptoms. Yeah, it is. It is. It seems like really your son's story, Bryn's story, and Javante Hill's story all have these consistent similarities that support each other. There's a reason why those stories wound up being published on our channel in the order that they were published. And so that's why they're there. That the stories support each other. Like Diego's story has so many views that it's extremely likely that those views led to views of other stories in the series. And so, yeah, we really put in some real thought to the order that the stories got published. So, not sure it mattered that much, but we try to do what we can to encourage people to watch. Brenda says, Alejandro, what is the one thing that has helped you the most in dealing with Diego's death? I ask because we have a couple of mothers in this group that I am worried about. And I imagine one of them you're worried about is Carla. Yeah. How's Kobe doing? I imagine he's doing good. I get that sense from him. I also imagine that wherever he's at in this moment, he is close to laughing again. That he either just laughed about something within the last couple of minutes, or he's about to laugh about something in the next couple of minutes, because that is how that's how his spirit is. That's how Kobe's demeanor works. You know what I mean? Pharmaceutical fentanyl has its place. Illicit fentanyl has no place on God's green earth. Yeah. Alejandro says, I'm doing awareness events in my community to benefit local charities that help mental health affected people. Now, we have Alejandro, we have the cannabis series. We also have the addiction recovery series and the fentanyl series. We have a couple of programs that explain how to administer naloxone, often referred to as Narcan. And we have a couple of other awareness kind of stories that might help you if you're doing live presentations and you want a video or short or part of a video. Like we have one video that it's a cartoon that explains how to administer naloxone. We made a cartoon. I do not see us doing that again anytime soon. Holy cow, cartoons are crazy amount of work. Yeah, Kobe is a great human being and such a wonderful sport about comments that were made about his story by morons, by people who are defending cannabis and at the same time sort of attacking Kobe, and he manages to laugh it off and come up with responses that they're really good. Anyway, folks, We have been here now for over 70 minutes, so it's about time to wrap things up. Brenda is asking Alejandra, do you think the staying busy or helping others is the most beneficial aspect of your outreach work? I'm sorry to keep asking questions, but I want to help these ladies more than anything. These ladies are both of them in our group. Brenda, I know Carla. Yes, Alejandra, you're doing a lot. And Christine, you are too. You're doing a lot to help others, a lot to make people aware. And Kimberly, holy cow, Kimberly was on TV last night before last, whenever it was, on Channel 5 in Memphis, I guess. I don't know what Channel 5 is, but I do remember Channel 5 for some reason. Anyway, folks, it is about time to wrap things up. So I want to thank you all for being here. And Brenda, here's your big chance to say your wonderful thing that I do always try to say it when you're not here for live. I try to tell people to remember that what you take for granted, someone else is praying for. I think that's such an important message that just it tells everyone to find gratitude in where you're at. I love that. So I also like to tell everyone we're always within reach. You can always reach out to us. You can find us all kinds of nifty, cool, high-tech ways. So you can email us at info@texas-pictures.com. You can also find us on Facebook under my name, which was on the screen the whole time, Glenn Muse, or under the Texas Pictures name. We have a company page on Facebook as well. And we're on TikTok. We don't really interact much on TikTok, but we do have a TikTok channel or page or whatever you call it. And you can also learn more about us from the Texas Pictures website, texas-pictures.com. You'll find how to share your story if you want to share your story or arrange for a storytelling summit in your area. There's information about that. There's links on the homepage to get more information about that. There is also a link to our merchandise store where you can find coffee mugs and hoodies and t-shirts and that kind of cool stuff. And our website has more information about us, about our history, about some of the other work that we've done, and ways to reach out and connect with us there too. There's a mailing address. There is a phone number. There's all kinds of cool stuff on our website. And I see Rhea Hayes, every day may not be good. However, there is something good in every day. Wow, that's a good one. I like that. That's very good. So, anyway, I want to thank all of you folks for joining us and being part of this afternoon live event. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. Our next story will be, what day is today? Wednesday. Our next story will be on Friday. I believe it will be a fentanyl story. And then I don't know what it'll be after that. It'll be something important, I'm sure. So thank you all again for being here. We will talk to you next time